So we finally saw Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. We've been asked to do this review a lot, but we couldn't see it till today.
Yep.
So
We didn't have
there you
an
go.
opportunity.
Yeah, it wasn't around. So what do you want us to do?
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. So now this is kind of an infamous film because of its, association with the beloved Winnie the Pooh character, and the fact that this now is a public domain property means you can make a horror movie on it. Anything you want on it, I guess, if you go and acquire the rights, I guess.
Gesundheit.
Thanks. I actually don't know how the public domain thing works. I thought you had to pay like a small amount of money or something. I don't know how it works.
I don't know.
Tell me how it works down in the comments, or maybe I'll Google it after. Anyways, so this is about basically the story of Christopher Robin, the one with Ewan McGregor. He gets older, he goes away to college, and the 100-acre woods change because of it. And Pooh and them, they, in this movie, not in the Christopher Robin movie, they're pissed off that he left, and then, one of them dies, and then they're like, we're never speaking again, and we hate humans, and, we're going to revert back to our more animalistic nature, and we're going to become killers. So the opening, actually, I thought was fine. The drawings, the artwork, and that kind of stuff. And then we had that. Then we had the Christopher Robin and his girlfriend were returning to the 100-acre woods. The 100-acre woods that were, you could tell it was the 100-acre woods because of that very, that very amazing sign.
The sign
out front. This reminded me of when we watched Cyborg.
Oh
when
my
they got
God.
to
Atlanta, and it's a little.
And it's just like a little board that had Atlanta written on it in crayon.
But 100-acre wood would make. But that's not the town, though. That's
I know, but it's just funny. I guess it's supposed to look like a kid made it, right?
Yeah, which I think it did.
But the girls in it. See, that's the thing. This isn't like. We literally just watched Bridge to Terabithia tonight with my kids. And in that movie, the girl creates this fantasy land, Terabithia, which is just for her and her little friend, right? And only they know about it. And when they go in there, that's Terabithia. Mm-hmm. And they know that to be. So if they have a sign, they have put one up on their treehouse and everything, that's for them.
Yeah.
Right? So that town sign or that land sign is for them. Mm-hmm. When these girls come to rent this Airbnb later, the girl pulls up in front of that sign and just acknowledges it like it's a normal sign that any town would have.
I know.
She's like, I'm sitting in front of the 100-acre woods and I just don't know where you guys are and this and that. And I'm like, it's a fucking that's like a little
piece of wood
it's
with
a little
blood on it, basically.
Wood plank.
Yeah.
What? This is your sign?
Yeah.
That is, I don't understand. That is baffling to me. It doesn't matter. Moving on from that. Okay. This has a 3 point something on IMDb, 3.6 or 4 or something. And when it started and we got Christopher Robin and his girlfriend, I was like, this is actually shot better and is better acted than I was expecting because of how much this movie's been shit on. I was expecting porno acting.
Yeah.
Right? And really stale, bland, gross, out of focus, overexposed, bad lighting shots. Mm-hmm. And it's the film is mildly competently made. The direction in it is fine. It's not good. It's just kind of okay. The acting in it is that's fine. It's not terrible, right? Like, and that's kind of a lot of what's going on with this film is like a lot of it's just kind of, it's all right. Like,
Yeah.
and some of it's downright terrible, but for the most part, I was actually kind of surprised at how like okay-ish this was. I was like, oh, this is you know, but we're used to watching a lot of shit,
We are.
and I think people, I don't know what people expected out of this movie. This is about as good as I expected it to be from the trailer. I was like, yeah, this is about what I expected.
Yeah, I think that there was some decent shots. Like, I thought it actually had a pretty cool style, like you were saying, with the artwork and stuff in the beginning.
Yeah.
I was into that. I thought it was artistic and creepy. And, yeah, the acting is fine from everybody. And, yeah, I think the direction was fine as well. But there's definitely something missing from the film. I think it could have been way more stylized, which would have made it, for me at least, I would have enjoyed that. But I also wasn't a huge fan of the ending. I think the film has a lot of ambition though. Like, I feel like there were definitely some kills that were intended to be pretty intense and like crazy, and for some people they might be. But I just feel like there's something missing that was maybe like held back a little. But it was fine. I mean, fine is the best word to describe it. Like, it wasn't god awful by any stretch of the imagination, especially compared to some of the things that we've watched, but it also wasn't, like, for me or for you, a memorable, like, cult classic kind of film where you're like, oh yeah, blood and honey, like, let's watch Winnie the Pooh be murderous. Yeah. And it could have been. I think that's kind of what I wanted out of it, was this like really like crazy take on, you know, a child like story.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like that was achieved.
No. So yeah, I mean, the film's just super bland, I think is probably its biggest issue. And I definitely despise the look of the killers. Like, it just looks like a guy in a mask, right? And like, they did try with that to make the movements of the mouth and the ears, and I thought that was pretty cool. Like, there's a point where like Winnie smiles.
Yeah, that was
stuff
actually
that was
pretty
cool.
creepy.
And the ears kind of waggle and stuff, and I was like, okay, like they're trying to make it look like that, but it did look like they were wearing like Rubbermaid.
It did. It did.
You know, dishwashing gloves for hands.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I get it. It's a low budget thing, so I'm not going to really harp on that stuff. But when you're there for Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, because those are the two killers in the movie, you know, you've really got to land that for the audience. Now, that design could work for somebody, and
Sure.
maybe they'd like it more, but I didn't, and so therefore it took away from it. And I thought the kills were pretty much all lame. There's okayish stuff going on with the kills, and when it's a slasher movie like this, right, like, you know, because I'm not going to sit here and harp on the lack of character development and like all that stuff, because that's kind of to be expected. I'm totally fine with there being tons or some or whatever in a slasher movie. I know some people don't give a shit, but it's not absolutely necessary. But if you're not going to do that, then you need to really focus in on making the characters likable, funny, relatable, something.
They need to be memorable.
The kills have to be nuts.
Yeah.
Right? Those are like the important things. And then if you want to throw in some like nudity and stuff too to make it more gratuitous, that's fine as well. I just found everything in this to just be very bland and forgettable. And in a movie about a killer Winnie the Pooh, that shouldn't be the case.
No, not
right?
at all.
The only reason I will remember this is because it's Winnie the Pooh. If you gave me the exact same film with a different title and they didn't call them those characters' names, this would be a film that I would forget in about a week.
Yeah.
And it would just fade into the back of my memory, and someone would bring it up a year later, 5 years later, and I'd be like, I don't know, did I watch that? But because it's Winnie the Pooh, I'll be like, oh yeah, I saw the Winnie the Pooh horror movie, right? Like, you're never going to forget that, but not because it's memorable, only because of the property that it's attached to that it's memorable. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I did not care about any of the characters at all. In fact, I kind of was, and part of it maybe was because my lack of focus when I was watching it, but I was a little confused on what was happening to a few of the people, like who was who, because they just made no impression on me. And truthfully, they all kind of look similar. Like all the girls have like brown hair. I think one of them is like has maybe highlights, like a blonde, but they all kind of looked the same to me, which sucks. But that's definitely something in slasher movies where it's like, even if you don't go with the typical tropes, like there's usually like really distinguishable characters. Like you have them looking a different way, they dress a different way or whatever, and that wasn't the case with this one. So I got a little confused at one point in the film about like what was happening to who. It's kind of a letdown, but I didn't have like crazy high hopes or anything for it. And I do think that the people that worked on the film, like I do feel like there's potential, you know, as we said, I think it's a competent, you know, relatively competently made film. It just didn't feel maybe as passionate too, is what I was trying to say earlier. Like that's maybe what was missing from it, or at least I think it didn't translate as a passion project. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a whole lot else to say. I just I didn't like the ending. I just feel like it didn't work for me, and I don't like that it sets up some other stuff that can happen, because I just don't have an interest in like the further story that could happen, and
I'm sure because of the channel, we'll have to watch it.
Yeah, we probably will watch it.
Yeah.
But it could be, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there will be improvements and things would change. That's totally possible. There's plenty of franchises where we don't like certain installments, but then there's really cool ones like later on or whatever. So,
well, if you are making the sequel and you're watching this, you need to focus on a couple things. You need to focus on either the kills and really make them memorable, right? If you look at something like Terrifier, one of the things that people remember about that film is the look, aesthetic, and performance of David as Art the Clown, right? Like, that's the focus. And then the kills. In the first one, you have the obvious one kill that's really memorable. And in the second one, you have a few kills that are super memorable. If you look at the rest of the film, it definitely has stuff to offer, but like it knows what it is. It understands its identity, right? And I feel like with this film doesn't really have an identity. It feels like a film where they were like, hey, there's a Winnie the Pooh, right? And we need to make it before anyone else can. And so we got to get this thing out as fast as we can. So, you know, let's get together with somebody who does effects work. Have them work on some kind of Winnie the Pooh piglet hybrid. Go with the first design that's given to us because we don't really have the time or the money to push back on that kind of stuff. And then we'll throw together a story that's like, you know, was put together in like 20 minutes, right? Like Christopher Robin pissed them off, so now he's returned home and they want to kill him. And then some girls are running an Airbnb because one of the girls had a stalker. There is legitimately, I've watched a lot of slasher movies in my life at this point. I've watched a lot of movies in my life at this point, but especially slashers. This has to be one of the least character driven or motive I've ever seen from main characters. Like, there's literally nothing going on with these girls. Like, which is fine if you're doing the whole slasher, like, tit-a-thon kind of film,
Sure.
right? Where the girls are just there to look hot and get naked, and you're just gonna kill them in violent ways. That's fine. Do a sorority house massacre or slumber party massacre kind of thing. Mm. But even in Slumber Party Massacre 2 or something, like there's actual like something going on there, right?
Yeah.
You got your main character there, which actually has a driving force. She has a crush on this guy. She's got a band. Her sister's in a mental institution. She wants to go to her friend's house, off in this new housing development. They get there. She thinks she's seeing things. Like, there's a lot going on with her. In this, there's literally nothing. She's just like, there's a guy who came into my house and tried to undress me while I was sleeping, and the girls are like, ugh. And they like put their phones in a little like on a tray. To do, like,
a tech detox or whatever, but
that doesn't play into the film. Nothing.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's because there's
these
no
girls
connection.
have nothing to offer.
Right.
Like literally nothing. Like her friend with the glasses.
I don't know.
I know nothing about her. You have the
a
gay couple. I know nothing about her. About them. I know nothing about the hot one with the bikini in the hot tub. Literally nothing.
It just like because I feel like we're talking about this movie for a really long time too, which is
I know,
funny. But their stories had no connection to like Christopher Robin and the 100 Acre Wood, and even if it was like supposed to be like, look at these random people, that fall into the situation, it didn't feel random enough. Like we spent too much time with them to be like a random story, so it's like there was no connection between the two, and we didn't get enough with Christopher Robin to care too much about like that part of the story. And then with them, there literally was like no motivation for us to stay like interested in what was going on with them.
And what also annoys me about that is, like, as I said, I think everyone in the film, like the main girls and Christopher Robin and his like fiance, they're all fine actors.
They
like,
are.
Nobody gave a great performance because I don't think the film called for it. But like they all were fine, and it's like they could have given them so much more to do, and you just didn't.
This is why I think like the acting is fine, the direction is fine. It's the writing that needs work. That's the big thing. Every other part was like fine and could be improved and whatever, but like it wasn't awful at all.
They wrote this in a weekend.
Yeah, it was the writing.
100% they did.
So
100%. No one even pretended to try on that.
It could have been so cool. It could have been like such a, like I said, a cult classic kind of film. Like we love those. The horror community loves those types of movies that are like really weird and like have insane characters that you would never expect to be killers or whatever. And
slasher films get a very, very unfair rap for certain things that are just not true. Mm-hmm. And I think that people use those as excuses when they make film. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you look at the great slasher movies, if you look at like Friday 4, right? If you look at The Burning, if you look at these movies, they have great characters. Even stuff like some later Halloween sequels, Halloween 4, whatever. They've got great characters.
Yeah.
I love the characters in these movies, and I genuinely feel what they're going through.
Yes.
Like, and I know them. If you ask me about the characters in any of my favorite slasher movies, they're not throwaway characters to me. I very much know Tommy Jarvis, right? I very much know even smaller characters like Glazer in The Burning.
Yeah.
Come on, Sally, quick girl.
Yeah, they're just...
I love him. He's so memorable. He's so funny. There's something there, right? There's just nothing here with this. And my final note, and then I'm out, is this has the dumbest pool sequence since Pieces.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know if Pieces was going to get topped.
It was really bad.
This is pretty hilarious.
That was probably the worst scene in the movie,
honestly. This is a pool that could double as a bathtub.
Oh my god.
And somehow this girl can't get away from this guy. as he's getting into the pool with her. It's like, dude, it's literally turn around and get out.
That scene was so long too. It was like trying to be so suspenseful.
And why was she going? Why was she going this way when the pool like edge is right next to her on the right here? I'm like, bro, just.
It was
what?
so confusing. Yeah.
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 That's it.
That's that.
That's that.
Okay, we're done. It's like a 30-minute freaking spoiler-free discussion.
I know.
There's nothing. I wouldn't even honestly have anything to say. So if anyone's ever like, "Oh, do a slasher Sunday" or anything, I don't have any more to say. No. There is no spoilers.
The only thing we do with our spoilers,
people die, and it doesn't matter. Like I can tell you, everybody that dies in this movie, and you wouldn't care because you don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right? I can straight up ruin the movie for you right now, but it wouldn't be. I can tell you every single character that dies, how they die right now. It wouldn't be a spoiler because there's nothing going on for you to give a shit to, right? Moving.
There was one thing I cared about, actually, that I had in my mind the whole time. Where the frick was Tigger?
He'll be in the sequel.
Probably.
Eeyore's dead.
Yeah, spoilers.
We know that.
Yeah.
He's got a gravestone.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't care where Tigger is.
I do.
All right, guys.
Bye.